My name is Emma, I'm 34 years old, and my family uninvited me to my sister's wedding after I paid over $100,000 for it. Before I tell you how I burned it all to the ground in a single night, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. It all happened in the middle of a quarterly review with the executive board. My phone, which was supposed to be on silent, started buzzing on the polished mahogany table. One buzz. I ignored it. A second. Then a third, a fourth. The CEO paused. All eyes were on me. Flushed, I mumbled an apology and stepped out into the hallway. The screen was lit up with texts from my mother. The last one was in all caps. You're not invited. Maya doesn't want you there. My blood ran cold. I read it again. It didn't make sense. I was paying for the venue. I paid for the caterer, the band, the ridiculous 5-tier cake Maya just had to have. I felt a strange, chilling calm wash over me. The kind of calm you feel in the eye of a hurricane. I didn't text back. I opened my email, found the thread with the venue manager, and typed a single, professional sentence. Subject: cancellation wedding of Maya. Please cancel all services booked under my name, effective immediately. Thank you. I hit send. One down. Then I walked back into the boardroom, my face a perfect mask of composure, and resumed my presentation. The war had just begun. Driving home that night, my mind was a slideshow of memories. Me at 12, on the phone with a 24-hour plumber while my mom paced in circles, wringing her hands because a pipe had burst. My sister, Maya, was in her room, oblivious, music blasting. Me at 16, sitting at the kitchen table, secretly negotiating a payment plan with the electric company because my dad had forgotten again. Responsibility wasn't a choice for me, it was a reflex. I wore competence like armor. It got me a full scholarship, a summa cum laude degree, and a job offer before I even graduated. Years later, when my tech startup sold, that competence made me a millionaire. And that's when the request started. A new car for dad. Help with mom's mortgage when her hours were cut. Maya's security deposit after she trashed her last apartment. I never said no. So, when Maya called me at midnight, breathless and squealing about her engagement to Caleb, my first instinct wasn't suspicion. It was, how can I help? Oh, just small stuff, she chirped. Maybe you could help us figure out a few deposits. 2 weeks later, she and my mom were in my living room, unrolling a spreadsheet that looked more like a corporate budget proposal. $120,000. My stomach dropped. Caleb's parents might help, Maya said vaguely, but her eyes, and my mother's, were locked on me. We'll figure it out was family code for Emma will figure it out. The next few months were a blur of wire transfers. Rush deposits for florists because Maya kept changing her mind. A non-refundable down payment on a designer dress. The retainer for a band that played exactly one song Caleb liked. I tracked every receipt, every invoice, in a meticulously organized folder on my laptop. A part of me, the naive part, thought this grand gesture would finally earn me a real seat at the table. Instead, I found myself being systematically pushed out. I'd find out about cake tastings from my mom's Facebook posts. I was removed from the Bridal Brigade group chat because, as Maya explained in a clipped voicemail, it was getting too cluttered with vendor talk. The final straw, the one that cracked my armor, happened on a Tuesday. I had stopped by the florist to pay the final balance in person. As I stood by the counter, I heard Maya's voice coming from the back office. She was on the phone with her maid of honor, her voice dripping with annoyance. God, she just makes everything about her. It's my wedding, not her business acquisition, she said. There was a pause. Honestly, I just wish she'd send the money and stay out of it. It felt like a punch to the gut. All the air left my lungs. That night, I didn't sleep. The hurt was so sharp it was physical. But underneath the hurt, something else was stirring. A cold, hard clarity. This wasn't love. This was a transaction. And I had been a fool to think otherwise. I decided then and there that I wouldn't just pull my money. I would wait. I would let them build their entire fantasy on my foundation, and then, I would pull it all out from under them. My strategy shifted. I was no longer a loving sister, I was a CEO conducting due diligence on a bad investment. I started documenting everything. I saved screenshots of the passive-aggressive texts. I forwarded every single invoice to a separate email account. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place during a routine call. I was confirming a minor detail with the caterer, a lovely woman named Carol. Trying to make small talk, I said, "I'm sure you're all very busy. Maya must be running you ragged." There was an awkward silence. Then, Carol said, in a gentle, hesitant voice, "Oh, honey. Her mother told us to only contact her directly. She said you were going through a difficult patch. And that we shouldn't bother you, to give you your space." A difficult patch. That was the phrase. It was so vague, so perfectly manipulative. They weren't just using my money, they were assassinating my character to explain my absence, an absence they themselves had engineered. I thanked Carol, my voice steady despite the rage boiling in my veins. That was it. I had my case. I had the motive, the means, and the evidence. All I needed was the right moment to present it. The moment came at the rehearsal dinner. It was held at a ridiculously expensive restaurant overlooking the city, a place I had booked and paid for. The air was thick with fake laughter and clinking champagne glasses. My family was giving me the cold shoulder, acting as if my presence was a strange inconvenience. My mother, at one point, leaned over to Caleb's mother, the elegant and composed Mrs. Peterson, and said loud enough for me to hear, "We're just so glad Emma could make it, even for a little while. She's been under so much stress." When it was time for toasts, I let them all go first. My dad, my mom, the maid of honor. All spouting sentimental nonsense. Then, I stood up, glass in hand. I smiled, a wide, serene smile. "I'd like to say a few words," I began. Everyone turned to look. "Maya, Caleb. I wish you nothing but the best." I paused, letting the warmth hang in the air for a second before shattering it. And I know how much effort goes into creating a perfect day. For instance, this beautiful private room. A small price at $15,000. A confused murmur went through the room. My dad's smile faltered. "The 5-course meal you're all enjoying, with the wine pairing. A steal at $22,000, I continued, my voice clear and even. I looked directly at Maya, whose face was starting to turn pale. "And Maya, that stunning Vera wine gown you'll be wearing tomorrow. All $8,500 of it looked beautiful in the photos I saw online." The silence was absolute. You could hear a pin drop. I then turned my full attention to Mrs. Peterson, my expression softening into one of deep, sincere concern. "And I have to say, Mrs. Peterson, thank you for your understanding. I'm just so relieved I was able to recover from that recent and very serious mental instability my family told you about. It's a miracle I'm even lucid enough tonight to pay the final bill. Mental health is just so important, isn't it?" The color drained from my mother's face. Maya looked like she had been slapped. The carefully constructed fantasy world they had built had just imploded, and I was holding the detonator. In the chaos that followed, I quietly placed my napkin on the table and walked towards the exit. My mother and Maya caught up to me at the door, their faces contorted with rage and panic. "How could you do this?" Maya hissed, tears of fury in her eyes. "You ruined everything." I stopped and looked at her. For the first time in my life, I felt no pity, no guilt, no sense of obligation. Just a profound, liberating emptiness. "No, Maya," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "I gave you the wedding of your dreams. Every last detail. Consider my absence from your life, starting now, the second gift. We're done." I turned and walked out into the cool night air, leaving them standing in the doorway of the life I had paid for but was no longer welcome in. I didn't look back. A year passed. A year of therapy, of setting boundaries, of learning to untangle my self-worth from my utility to others. I blocked their numbers. I went on a trip to the coast and threw my phone in the ocean. Metaphorically, of course. I just turned it off for a week. It was bliss. Then, one day, I got a letter. A real letter, with a stamp. It was from Maya. Inside was a single card with 5 words written in a shaky hand: "Can we please talk? I'm sorry. We met at a neutral coffee shop." She looked smaller. The entitled sparkle in her eye was gone, replaced by a weary exhaustion. She told me everything. The wedding never happened. Caleb's family had been appalled. The shame had forced her to look at herself, really look, for the first time. She was in therapy. She was getting a divorce. It wasn't Caleb's fault, she admitted, staring into her cold coffee. I built my entire identity around what people thought of me, and it was all a house of cards. You just had the guts to be the one to blow it down. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was a start. It was truth. Today, my life is different. My dinner table is filled with mismatched chairs and friends who don't need anything from me except my company. I mentor young female entrepreneurs, helping them build their dreams on their own terms. Last week, one of them sent me a note. It said, "You taught me that I am not the backup plan. I am the blueprint." For years, I gave my place away at the table and called it love. Now, I know the most valuable table isn't one you're invited to. It's the one you build yourself. Thank you so much for listening to my story. It wasn't easy to share, but I felt it was important. If you enjoyed the story and want to hear more just like it, don't forget to like the video, drop a comment with your thoughts and subscribe for more stories. Your support helps these stories reach more people, and trust me, the next one, it's even wilder.